Hey guys, welcome to my new programming series. Today we will be going over the basics of Mindstorm's programming. Okay, let's start with one of the simplest and most useful blocks, the move tank. And I'll be using the term blocks throughout this episode and through my more advanced episodes. A block is just a segment of code or a method that has been condensed into a visual representation. Anyway, back to what this is, the move tank. Let's start with up here. Here we see the ports. These are where your motors that are used to drive your robot forward are plugged into your brain, with the brain of your robot. As we can see, according to this, the robot ports are B and C. That is, the left motor is plugged into the B port, and the right motor is plugged into the C port. You can switch these around by clicking them. Say if I want to do D and C or A and C. It doesn't matter as long as they correspond to the correct port that is assigned to each motor. Now, whenever you see this symbol, it means power. So they are graded on a scale of negative 100 to 100. Negative 100 be moving backwards and 100 be moving forwards. Forwards is clockwise. So if you were to do this at 100 power, then the left motor would be rotating forward clockwise at about 40% more than the left one will be moving at about 40% more than the right one. Unless you want your robot to turn, you want these to be about equal. And you can double tap this to select and make a more accurate number. This is the rotations, And you really want to be using rotations when it comes to distances. It's much more accurate than using something like degrees or seconds, because seconds depends on the power of your robot. So by changing it, it goes farther or slower and it's harder to regulate. And degrees I found just to be not as accurate and a little more annoying to use. So rotations, whatever you want to call them, are probably the best to use. So that's pretty much it for the move tank block. Now that's really good if you want to move forward very accurately, but let's say you want to turn. Then we can use this block called move steering. And this move steering block, it's very much the same as this one. They still have the power, except this block, which you can change the direction. This is the angle at which the robot will rotate from. It's not the angle, it's the a scale of 0 to 100 of how much it will rotate by. So 100 to the right is the sharpest rotation to the right it can, and negative 100 is the sharpest rotation to the left it can. The power still determines the torque and speed at which the motor runs, and this is the amount of rotations, the amount of wheel rotations that you want to occur. I forgot to go over this button, the brake at the end. The brake at the end just means to tell the motors to lock in place, and you really want to keep it activated. You can keep it rolling, which means that it won't lock the brakes at the end, but to be very accurate, you usually want to keep them locked. Okay, now let's go over some of the individual motor blocks. So those are good if you want to drive the robot, but sometimes you have individual motors on your robot. So let's look at that. It's very much the same as the drivetrain. You have the power right here, the rotations, and the stop. It works pretty much the same as this. As I said before, don't use degrees, don't use seconds. But if you want to spin it indefinitely for some reason, then you can click on, and that will just make it spin forever. Not that useful when it comes to an FLL game, but I'm not to judge, I'm just here to show. Another useful block that you might have found is the smaller motor, the medium motor, which works very much the same. Pretty much the same as the large motor, except that it is smaller. Also notice the ports. Make sure that when you assign these blocks to where you want them to be, they're using the correct port. That's pretty much it for this episode. Those are the more simple blocks. It's in charge of Locomotion. So keep watching and keep creating.